Welcome to AI for Cybersecurity, 12 hands-on episodes. Today is the tour. In the next 12 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what AI can do for security work. 12 concrete capabilities, each with a working tool you'll build in this series. No framework lectures, no fluff. Let's go. Here's the one thing you need to believe before we start. Until recently, getting an AI to actually do security work, drive a tool, reason about output, decide what to do next, was a science project. Now, it's routine. Three things changed. Well, three load-bearing things. Function calling crossed reliability thresholds. Every security tool shipped a Python API, and Claude Haiku got cheap enough that a 1,000-document scan costs less than the coffee you drink while it runs. That's the only framing you need. The rest of this video is what changed because of it. One thing before we go further. Every hands-on episode in this series targets intentionally vulnerable lab environments. WebGoat, JuiceShop, DVWA, your own VMs. Running these techniques against systems you don't own or don't have written authorization to test is illegal in most jurisdictions. The channel doesn't provide legal advice. Lab targets only. Always. That sentence is going to flash at the start of every hands-on episode. It matters. Here's the map. 12 hands-on tools. 3 movements. Recon first, then vulnerability research, then applied workflows. Each one a self-contained episode that ends with a working tool you can use the same day you watch it. Let me show you what each one does. First movement, AI as your recon analyst. 5 capabilities, 5 upcoming episodes. Watch what happens when you give Claude the same data you've been staring at for years. Episode 2. You point a script at a JuiceShop login form. Claude looks at the parameters, picks the one most likely to be vulnerable, runs sqlmap against it, watches the dump come back, and writes you a paragraph. Yes, the email parameter is injectable, here's the database schema, and here's the impact in plain English for the report. 3 sentences. 25 lines of Python. Okay, 28 if you count imports, but you get the idea. The interesting part isn't that AI runs sqlmap. Anyone can run sqlmap. The interesting part is that AI reads sqlmap's noisy output and tells you what it means. Episode 3. Your subdomain word list found 50 hosts, standard. Now Claude reads the company's homepage, their LinkedIn engineering posts, their job listings, and suggests try these 30 subdomain candidates: APU, API staging, internal billing, partner portal, ML prod. Half of them are wrong. The other half? Most of them resolve. That's recon nobody else on the engagement is doing. Episode 4. You point a script at a target's GitHub organization, their showdown results, and their tech blog. 200 raw documents come back. README files, exposed services, tech stack mentions. Claude reads everything, extracts the structured intelligence, names, technologies, exposed services, employee roles, and writes it into a SQLite database you can query with one line. That's the bit that used to take you 2 days in a notebook. Episode 5. You're auditing a Python codebase. You want to find every place where user input flows into a subprocess call without sanitization. Old way. Write the semgrep rule yourself. Debug the YAML for an hour. New way. Tell Claude, find me every subprocess call that takes user-controlled input. Watch it write a working semgrep rule, watch it run the rule across the repo, and read the ranked findings. Most are noise. 3 are real. Claude tells you which 3. That's the workflow we ship. Episode 6 closes the recon arc. Subdomains from Episode 3, OSINT from Episode 4, code findings from Episode 5, all merged into a single attack surface map. Each asset scored by exploitability. Each asset mapped to MITRE attack techniques. 1 JSON artifact, 1 score. This is what the next phase of the series acts on. Second movement, AI as your vulnerability researcher. The work that used to take a senior engineer a week, automated to run overnight. Episode 7. Every morning at 6 a.m., before you check your inbox, an autonomous agent has already done your job. It reads every CVE published overnight from the NVD. It fetches proof of concept code from GitHub for the ones that have one. It scores each against your specific tech stack. You run Postgres 15 and Nginx. This CVE matters. You don't run Apache. This one doesn't. By the time you sit down with coffee, the top 3 are already in your bug tracker. The rest are ranked, archived, searchable. The agent itself is 100 lines of Python, actually maybe 90 if you don't count the imports, and runs on a cron. That's what Episode 7 builds. Episode 8. You point Claude at a known CVE on a system you've authorized yourself to test. Claude drafts the exploit code. The code runs in a Docker sandbox. The exploit fails. The script throws an error. Claude reads the error, sees what went wrong, fixes the code, tries again. The loop runs until it works or until a hard attempt limit. You supervise. The exploit either lands or it doesn't, but you didn't write a single line of it. You watched it write itself. The pattern is called generate, execute, reflect. And once you see it work, you'll start using it everywhere. Episode 9. Old school fuzzers throw random bytes at an HTTP endpoint and hope something crashes. The application rejects 99% of those bytes at the parser before any interesting code path is reached. Claude doesn't throw random bytes. It reads the application's documentation, understands the request format, and generates payloads that look like real valid requests, except for one carefully broken thing. The kind of payload a senior pentester would think to try. Wired into Burp Suite, pointed at Juice Shop, you'll be surprised what it finds. Episode 10. Ghidra disassembles a binary you've been given to audit. 10,000 lines of decompiled C come back. Reading all of it manually is a week of work. Claude reads it in 20 minutes and tells you, functions parse header, decode token, and verify signature look like the most likely vulnerability candidates. Here's why for each. You go look at those 3. The other 1,000 functions, you skip. Ghidra plus Claude is a different kind of binary analysis than what you've used before. Third movement, AI as your workflow conductor. The episodes where AI stops being a tool you call and starts being a colleague you talk to. Episode 11 flips us to defense. Imagine you're an in-house security engineer. Your SIEM produces 1,000 alerts overnight. Most are duplicates, false positives, low-severity noise. 20 of them actually matter. Episode 11 builds the agent that sorts them. It clusters similar alerts using embeddings, so 100 near-identical failed login from Russia entries become one. It scores by severity. It writes investigation playbooks for the top ones. This looks like credential stuffing. Check the geolocation history. Check the user's MFA enrollment. Triage that used to take your morning, done before you arrive. Episode 12 is the capstone for offensive work. A conversational AI pentest assistant. You start an engagement on Monday. You scan some hosts, find an interesting service, take notes. By Friday, you've forgotten which host had the weird response on port 8080. The assistant hasn't. Ask it, what was the unusual response on the 10.05 subnet earlier this week? It recalls the exact finding, the timestamp, the raw output. It can also invoke any tool from earlier in the series on demand. Recon, CVE triage, fuzzing, and add the results to engagement memory. 12 weeks of pen testing that used to live in a messy notebook now lives in a queryable, persistent memory store. Episode 13. The 3-hour threat modeling meeting that nobody wants to attend. Replaced with a FastAPI endpoint, you feed it a description of your architecture, components, data flows, trust boundaries, and a stride-driven Claude pipeline walks every component, identifies threat actors, maps attack paths, generates mitigations. Output, a structured threat model your team can review in 15 minutes. Not a replacement for the meeting on systems where the stakes are real, but the right starting point on every other system. By the end of episode 13, this is running as a service. That's 12 capabilities. Before the close, one thing to keep in your head while you watch the rest of the series. Every one of these tools recommends, drafts, scores, suggests. None of them decide. Authorization is yours. Risk threshold is yours. Whether the output makes sense is yours. The shape of responsible AI use in security work is exactly this. AI assists. Humans decide. That sentence is the whole spine of this series. Where should you start? 3 quick guides. Solo founder building security tools for clients. Episodes 2 and 12 first. That's the shape of what you'll ship. Freelance pen tester, episodes 2, 7, and 9 give you the highest leverage workflow upgrades. In-house security on the defensive side, episode 4 for OSINT, episode 11 for Blue Team, episode 13 for threat modeling. Or just go in order. The series works linearly too. That's the tour. Next episode is hands-on. We wire sqlmap to Claude and find SQL injection in OWASP Juice Shop. Subscribe if you want it in your feed when it drops, and drop a comment with the security workflow you'd most like to see automated next. I'm taking suggestions for future deep dive series. Fuzzing, formal verification, whatever you're hitting. See you in episode 2. AI for your work. Build more, hire less.